17th. Do we have any postponements, Jean?
We do not. One discussion item has opted to come to the next hearing, so he will not present tonight. So we have the one public hearing to open tonight.
Okay, so 201 Sutton Street. Do you want to fill us in on that one?
Yep, so there's a little background history at this site. 201 Sutton Street is the location for DaVita Dialysis. In 1997, the planning board issued a special permit for site plan review at this location. Within that special permit, there was a condition that the number of dialysis stations was not to exceed 19 without coming back to the board. Several months ago, a building permit was issued that resulted in 3 additional stations being added at the site. Upon discovery of that, the applicant had come to the board and requested a insubstantial change to allow for those beds. The board opted to approve a temporary modification, which gave them 90 days to file for a modification. So that 90 days is actually up tomorrow, so they have met the deadline. They had to present a modification to their site plan. During our pre-application meeting, we actually discovered that in 1997 there was also a variance granted by the ZBA, which allowed for a reduction in required parking from 50 to 37 spaces. A whole site plan was approved. That was sent in your packet. Those 37 spaces, although identified and approved, were never actually lined at the site. So if you were to have driven by, they are not lined. The applicant is here to present a site plan which does line those spaces in addition to making a few other improvements on the site location. Philip Henry is the applicant's engineer, and he's here to present the plan.
For the record, my name is Philip Henry with Civil Design Group, and that's a very accurate history summary of what's happened here in the past year. What I have here in front of you, I know that you have it electronically, but why I have this on a board is we've made 2 subsequent minor revisions subsequent to the filing at the request of the fire department and with follow-up conversations with the planning staff. And I just want to walk you through those changes. But first, let me just touch on what we originally submitted in the packet. So, as Jean alluded to, if you were to go out there today, actually none of the spaces are actually striped, but certainly these 15 here are not striped, which is part of the 1997 variance approval that allowed the reduction from 50 spaces to 37 spaces. So unbeknownst to anyone with prior knowledge of that variance, it appears that the only parking available is here and here, which totals 22 spaces. During peak hours, may look full. So upon discovery of that, we said let's commit to striping the parking lot as originally intended back in 1997. So that's the first improvement that we proposed. And then upon meeting with Ms. Enright informally, we committed to adding. We originally committed to adding a new fence enclosure. We had subsequently submitted some photos to Jean. The existing dumpster enclosure, which is a 6-foot-high stockade fence, is beyond repair. It's falling down. So we committed to, as well as the concrete itself that the dumpsters are supported on, are also in disrepair. So we committed to initially redoing the fence enclosure as well as the concrete pad. However, subsequent conversations with Ms. Enright, we discussed that we should leave the concrete pad because that concrete pad is currently within 100 feet of the pond. So we are working together trying to avoid filing with conservation if we could avoid it. So we decided to leave the existing pad, but continue on with doing the proposed 6-foot-high, a new 6-foot-high stockade fence. The third improvement that we initially committed to was removing the existing sign, which is an old dilapidated sign, and installing a new monument sign. It's basically a 6x6 sign that is detailed on the original plan as well. And then lastly, we committed to enhancing the entrance through 37 shrubs and ground cover in 2 planting beds on either side of the entrance. So that was the original submission. On November 6th, we received a letter from the fire department, and the fire department wanted us to add a few things to the plan. First, they wanted us to add a 3-foot wide fire lane that is striped along the edge of that landscape area, and stripe no fire lane, no parking, no fire lane, as well as add 2 no parking fire lane signs, which are shown on this plan, located here and there. The third item is that we wanted to identify where ambulances, when they come, where do they drop off? And historically, they've been dropping off, I think, at the front. So we've designated space 16 as the ambulance drop-off area. There's an existing ramp there. We figured that's a good fit to where those ambulances should be dropping off. And then obviously, number 4 was the existing dumpster pad, which I just spoke about. And then as late as today, in speaking with the planning staff, there were 2 other items that we needed to address, one of which we did address, and the second one I wanted to have an open discussion with the board as to what we should do, and we could do either. The first was to make sure all the snow storage areas outside the 100-foot buffer with respect to the pond. So this latest plan reflects that.
Repeat the snow storage piece you just mentioned.
The snow storage area shown on that plan, there's some snow storage area is within the first 100 feet with respect to the pond, particularly on spaces 1 through 7, which is on the front right. And then proximate to the dumpster, it's that clouded area that says snow storage. There's part of it is in the first 100 feet. So the idea is to, it's okay to have snow storage within the first 100 feet. We just have to make sure once the snow melts, the grade is such that it properly drains through the catch basins and goes through the existing drainage infrastructure as would rain would do. But we felt that those areas, if those were stockpiled there, they would actually drain directly into the pond, so we eliminated that. There is actually, which I didn't show, there's other area here in the front lawn, which they probably would store snow as well, and we can certainly add that to the plan based on our discussion today. And then lastly, there was discussion of providing accessible spaces. Currently, there are 2 accessible spaces located here or here. That's the existing condition, but they don't have the supporting striped area that makes it accessible. So we have 37 proposed spaces, so we need two accessible, accessible spaces per AAB and ADA. So there's 2 potential options here. Next to space 1, there's a striped area. We can flip-flop the striped area and space 1. Therefore, space 1 and 2 would be accessible, and then you'd have your 2 spaces. We also discussed with Gene if we wanted 3 spaces, if the board wanted 3 spaces to match the 97 plan without losing any spaces. What we would do is we would actually leave space 1 as is, put that accessible, make space 1 the accessible with the adjacent striping as shown. And then space 14 and 15, that available width right now is about 18.5 feet. So with 2 ADA spaces plus a shared 5-foot striped aisle, you would need 21 feet, an 8-foot space, a 5-foot stripe, in an 8-foot space, and we could share that 5-foot stripe in between. But in doing so, we would need to carve out about 3 more feet of this landscape area approximate to space 14 to get that 21 feet of clear width, and then we could stripe accordingly. So those are the options. I could tell you that my client would obviously prefer to restripe, to flip-flop space 1 and the stripe Therefore, we would create no land disturbance, and that we would have our two spaces.
I'm sorry, why?
What?
What would handicapped people prefer? Somebody in a wheelchair?
Yeah, I agree that this is a sensitive use, so therefore there's no harm in providing more accessible spaces. The tricky part comes in, we don't want to lose any spaces. We want to maintain our 37 spaces to adhere to the variance. So we could do option 1, option 2, or we could do both.
You already have 2, though, depicted. So if you use space 1 as one, wouldn't you have 3? The 2 on either side plus 1?
We technically have the 8-foot space, but we don't have the adjacent stripe space. So if you were to stripe next to the accessible space, we therefore lose a parking space.
Oh, that's an actual space
Yeah, it's
next
an
to
actual
it.
space.
Oh, I see.
How would someone in a wheelchair enter?
So this sidewalk has tip downs, so it's flush with the pavement.
Okay.
All around.
But
Yeah,
how would they, which door would they use to enter, someone in a wheelchair?
the main entrance.
Okay. They wouldn't use that ramp in back?
They could use the ramp in the back. Per the 97 plan, that was an accessible space, but that's not actually how it's used. There's no accessible signage there today. So someone could use that space. So if we decide on this option, this is a flush tip down right here, so they can go in here, or they can go up that ramp.
How many of what percentage or estimate of the patients are actually, unable to walk?
Diana, would you know that?
Unable to walk. Well, we know about 25 patients out of 100 drive themselves. So the rest have some sort of limitation.
But, is that a walking limitation? Or is it just
I don't think she
they're
can-
not
I don't
capable?
think she can actually say.
Yeah. No, but
legally.
can they get-
I don't think she can actually
Why?
talk about her patients.
Well, she could just
If you're asking
give a
how many
percentage,
come,
that's not.
Via wheelchair, my best estimate would probably be 15 of our 100 patients.
Okay.
Which space you currently, are any of the parking spaces marked for handicap currently? Those two are existing?
12
Okay.
and 15.
If you go in the parking lot, do you typically see one used more than other? If you had to guess, was 12 used more than 15 or 15 used more than
I would
12?
say they're used equally.
Equally, okay.
I would say are used equally, and I would say that for patient usage, they would use 14 and 15. That's most likely they would use.
Because I was going to say, because for turning radius, 1 and 2 would be an easier turn for someone in a larger van to get in and out of the property, opposed to making
I
that.
think regardless of
Yeah.
the option,
Right.
one would be an accessible space.
Right.
Do you ever find that you have a shortage of handicap parking? No complaints?
No, we've had one complaint, and there was an ambulance blocking the handicap.
Is there potential for that to happen again if you're making the handicap in 14 and 15 and the ambulance is going in 16? I mean, what's the, I don't know, close.
I guess perhaps if they don't back in far enough. There is actually more area next to 16 in that stripe dial. Again, that stripe dial is what it's a compilation of what we saw in the 97 plan plus what's actually out there today.
Probably a silly question, but did you consider just using some spots right across from where the sidewalk comes
Can't.
into it?
What, oh, the parallel spaces?
Not wide enough.
Yeah, the striping needs to be next to as opposed to in front or behind. But that's a good
Go
thought.
down in the picture a little bit. Oh, that's good. Now, I want to be able to see the spots on both sides of the front door. That's good. So, is that 12 and 13, and then
Yes.
14 and 15?
Yeah.
So you talked about carving out part of the landscaping with 14 and 15 to make it wide enough for the 21 feet.
Yeah.
Is there a reason that you're not considering doing that at 12 and 13?
There is. The answer is that those spaces are currently within 100 feet of the pond.
Got it.
I'd say just flip the crosshatch and put it between 1 and 2. No land disturbance. It gives you your accessibility. If you wanted to keep 15 as a additional parking space, well, you need 3, so you'd have 1, 12, and 15.
Well, per code, we need 2, but it's a minimum.
Unfortunately, because you had a ZBA waiver,
Okay.
it said 3 in there, and that was...
Okay.
It actually says you have to have 2 standard, 1 van, 19 10 by 20s, and 15 7.5 by 16. So
Okay.
when you went in for the waiver for the quantity of the parking space, it actually
I see.
dictated the 3. So I don't think we can waive actually ZBA. You'd have to go back to ZBA and get a waiver from them, and I don't know
Okay.
if you want to do that, so, because they specified how it was waived
Okay.
in the breakdown. So I'd say just flip the crosshatch to between 1 and 2, and if you want to leave 1 at 14 and, 15 and 12, gives you 3.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Because I think you need 3 according to...
Yeah, so we would have
Yeah.
4 then.
Well, if you wanted to
Yeah.
use 2 also, that's your choice, if
Okay.
you wanted to, yeah.
I just think it's better to be more visible in the front
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
in the back.
I
By the
would- yeah.
ambulance and
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
thing going
Yeah.
on back there now.
Yeah, I typically would have thought that the front would be used more than the back, too,
Yeah.
so.
Is 15 and 12 compliant as drawn here, or you need to add that 3-foot stripe?
That's the issue.
That's the 3-foot stripe, you lose the space 14.
That's the issue. The 8-foot space is there. It's the 5-foot stripe is not.
Okay, so 1 and 2 will be it, so,
Yeah, so 1 and 2 would be two compliant spaces, and then you'd have 12 and 15, which are accessibly marked spaces, but there's no supporting striping.
I thought didn't you have 18 and a half feet, you said, at, between 14 and 15, or?
Well, they'd lose the spot.
Yeah, you lose a spot.
Okay.
You'd have to get rid of 14 as a spot. and put the
You'd end up
striping
with
in there.
4 instead of 3, but it would require land disturbance. Which, again, assuming it's outside of the 100, I think regardless, this will need to be reviewed with the conservation agent just to confirm outside of 100 for that land disturbance, as well as the replacement of the fence around the dumpster. And if the concrete pad, if it's not stable, and the right thing to do is repair it, then it may or may not require a filing with conservation, but
So we can coordinate directly with Ms. Hughes on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you go down slightly, just slightly? No, don't zoom, zoom it back
you
in.
mean this way. yeah.
Other way. Keep going. A little more, down. There you go.
So today, I often see that the ambulances actually pull up to the end of that center ramp and stop in the middle of the road. So the fire department's review, it was important to mark this as a no parking area because today they drive right around them. So it will be, for the most part, a change in practice to have the ambulance go all the way down to the far end. The police department has reviewed as well, and they did not see any issues. The fire department, I don't think I included it in your packet because it came after. He has sent a confirmatory memo saying that these changes do satisfy his concerns.
The access thing going past the parallel parked cars, that's wide enough for you?
It's wide enough that it meets the ZBA variance that was issued in '97, so that they are the same dimensions. I
Yeah, they've been
confirmed
field
with Phil that
verified.
he went out and he did measure that it is still that width. And in '97, there was also a memo from the fire department saying that they were okay with these dimensions. And it was confirmed again with Lieutenant McCarthy for this filing.
And the ramps are ADA compliant.
Yeah, they do have the tip downs at the end, so it's a flush. It's a flush.
Is there a railing on the ramp in back?
Is there a railing? Yeah, there is, yep.
I didn't remember.
Actually, I've been there now 4 times, and I've never seen a problem with the parking there, so I don't see a problem.
Any other questions?
So what do we do about the conservation part?
I've drafted a decision. If you'd like to condition that decision, that, upon approval with conservation, that they need to review it, then that can be conditioned that way.
And how did you handle the parking in here?
Parking.
The striping, where they're gonna stripe it or not stripe it, or?
They are going to stripe it, but there'll have to be a modification made to where these handicap spaces. The discussion tonight, because that just all came up this afternoon.
Someone want to make a motion to close the hearing?
Will we close the public hearing on,
Navita Dialysis, 201 Sutton Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's gonna look better in the front. With those plantings?
Yeah.
Gene, the header?
I already fixed that. 201 Sutton Street. Since this was sent out, yes, I have it.
The one we have?
I know you have something different. It's 201 Sutton Street, November
Okay.
17, 2015.
Okay, so
Yep.
you didn't hand out a different one, okay.
No.
Two, okay. On number 7, where we have parking requirement from 50 to 37 spaces and driveway width of 25 feet to 16 and a half, and how many compact parking, we should add in the number of compact parking spaces measuring 7.5 by 16 also.
You're going to put the review of conservation under general conditions?
I can, yes.
Yeah.
So that should be a modification tonight. Have a meeting with conservation to review whatever is deemed final tonight as far as the site plan.
is that the only condition?
Well, the parking, handicap parking is.
Right.
Yeah, the handicap parking, yeah.
That's the second one.
14, the zip code?
On that table there, in that packet, there'll be a draft of this, if you'd like to look at it, yes. I'm sorry, 14,
Zip code?
The trash storage that you have outside, I don't know whether you generate any medical waste
Yes, they do.
in the outside. Yeah, so they do.
It was covered in the original decision.
Residue dig, yeah. Where, that's stored inside? All right.
number 9, this is so dumb. On page 3, McCarthy. I hate to even say that. Oh, I don't. So is McCarthy. It's so insignificant. I don't know him. Anybody else?
Well, I think within the motion and condition that a revised site plan reflecting what was discussed with handicap parking tonight is reviewed with me, and as long as it's acceptable. And then I'll update the final dates on this as well to reflect the revision date of the final.
Sophia, would you like to make that motion?
Nope, not what she said. Go ahead.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the site plan review modification for 201 Sutton Street, dependent on a revised site plan being submitted with reflective of the new handicap parking spaces discussed tonight. And what about the the conservation? And the other modifications we've discussed tonight.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. That was painful.
Look at this, Essex County.
Greenbelt.
This is great.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, would you like to give an update on Lake Cleanup Day?
We had about 100 volunteers at Lake Cleanup Day, three of whom are here. Thank you very much for your help.
I barely escaped alive.
And would like to do it again next year.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank Peter for organizing it, or assisting in organizing it, because it was a great turnout.
It was great.
DPW, conservation, planning, all were tremendous in organizing it. I actually didn't do
Did you finally
really
get the
anything.
canoe?
I got the, on Saturday and Sunday, the sunk canoe, 2 truck tires, a tire, inner tube, and some other debris out of the lake.
Piece of wood I left on the side.
My son got that. Yes.
There were 2 tires that came out of,
The thing on the road there, too, where we were.
Really?
Oh, yeah, but they went by the garbage can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else besides the DPW was substantially involved? Like organizing it and planning
Organizing it, so DPW, conservation, planning, were all helping.
Yeah.
And DPW had a terrific turnout. They were driving trucks around to pick up bags. They did a reverse 911 call to all the Lakeshore residents. They reached out to Merrimack College for them, and Conservation reached out to the high school for, I think we ended up with about
Okay.
25 high school students.
Can I ask your advice then? Because I'm
Oh, and I'm sorry, sustainability was also helping.
I'm the co-president for the Atkinson Elementary PTO, and in the elementary schools PTO president's meeting, we talked about the elementary schools grounds cleanup. The DPW really doesn't do anything except for mow the lawns, but other than that, like leaf cleanup, just general cleanup that needs to happen in spring and fall, is not really done except for by volunteer parents and stuff. So I was thinking of organizing a schools cleanup, school
Yeah.
grounds cleanup
That'd be
in a
great.
similar fashion
Yeah.
of what you did, trying to get DPW to support and kind of making it more of a town-wide thing rather than each elementary school kind
Right.
of doing their own thing.
Right.
So maybe you could let me know who you worked with at the DPW, and I
Yeah.
could contact them. That
Yeah,
would be great.
sure, yeah.
Thank you.
There's a guy who...
They were very helpful.
Yeah, there's a guy who works for the Eagle Tribune, Paul Tennant, and he used to be our contact before they cut down on doing that sort of thing, but now he's still at there.
Oh.
And, you know, you could contact him, and he generally can get things into
Oh, that'd be neat.
the paper.
Yeah, good.
Or you can go to the town and they'll put it on Twitter and Facebook and the town website. Yeah.
Great.
Osgood Smart Growth Overlay District, I think everybody got the memo.
So the town manager sent a memo that the planning board has copied, so I trust everybody received it. He's recommending that the Board of Selectmen begin a committee to look at the bylaw for the Section 17, which we're very familiar with now, for the Osgood Overlay District. I put it on the agenda just to confirm you've all received the memo, make sure you have it, and to see if there's any interest once that committee is formulated, if anybody has any interest. He has recommended someone from the planning board. I don't know if they would like 1, 2, but I would be happy if anybody's interested. If you want to give me your name, I will forward it to Eric Kafori. He has been recommended to chair that committee.
I'll volunteer, and if John's not here tonight, if he wants to do it, that's fine. But I know as chair, he has a lot going on, so I'll
I'd be
volunteer.
happy to be a second, but as a second.
Why not? Why not a first?
Well, I think your body of experience would be important.
I think you should do it.
And his is the body of water.
Okay, I will send John an email to see what his thoughts are. Okay.
Minutes.
Actually, read them. I thought they looked pretty good. Did you find something?
I got a couple.
Oh.
Anybody else have anything? Okay. Line 13, the drip trench has been constructed in the rear only with added gutters and a single rain leader concentrating flow. I'll just hand these to you, but I just want to read it for everybody so they can someone can make the motion. 133, add in after assumes access to the building is accessible. And 140, ADA and OSHA standards. That's it. Anybody else have any? Nothing? Someone may want to make a motion to approve the minutes
Make a motion to approve minutes?
of November
Yes.
3rd?
Yes, as modified.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Anything else, Jean?
I don't have anything.
Okay, someone motion?
Move we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.